other type of this. How can, not using bandwidth, can I still bring the server down or deny service of other poor users? Yes, you can. So here's the deal, guys. So we talked about HTTP on this channel. We talked about TCP. We talked about UDP. And HTTP essentially is establishing like a web page. If you connect to a server and it says, okay, google.com, give me your web page. Get, right? If you do a get, under the hood, this is a TCP connection. And we talked about TCP and UDP. I'm going to reference the video here. TCP versus UDP. Please go ahead and watch it. It is you're gonna really understand what is the difference. If you already understand, that's great. But this is the idea of TCP is it is a stateful protocol, and we also talk about what is the difference between stateful and stateless. Go watch that video as well. I'm gonna reference it here. So because if it's stateful, that means the server needs to keep some sort of a state in memory, in RAM, about its clients. So it keeps like information that, hey, I have one TCP connection here, I have one TCP connection, and keeps several information about the server. So there's some CPU cycles, there's some RAM associated, there's some resources that is associated with each TCP connections. Obviously, server says, okay, with every user, I'm gonna establish TCP connection. I cannot just keep establishing TCP connection forever because I have limited resources. Obviously, the server doesn't have unlimited memory, right? It doesn't have unlimited CPU. So what it does, it sets a cap of the maximum number of connections so it doesn't run out of memory. Okay. So that's in a nutshell. That's why we have a maximum connection, and it's usually, I think, in Apache is 200 connection, TCP connection. Right? Obviously, you can change that if you have more memory, but there's default, right? So we have, in this example, we have 6 maximum connections. 3 is used by those guys, right? And what will happen is, let's say you have a bad actor. They ganged up and they say, okay, let's saturate this guy. Right? Let's just connect to this guy and then let's exceed the maximum number of connections. So once you do that, poor Joe over here, again, cannot watch Roberto Blake anymore, right? So it says, yeah, we cannot watch it anymore. I cannot view my website because there's no more connection to serve, right? I cannot establish connection. Maximum connection is exceeded. That's the error you're going to get. Obviously, guys, this is also not easy to do, because if you try to connect and this just don't do anything, like if you try to connect to a server and just ghost that server, right? You cannot just do that. The server will have preventative measure to time out after certain time if an activity. So you cannot really just connect to the server and says, okay, I'm going to establish TCP connection, I'm just going to forget about it, right? You cannot just establish connection and ghost the server. This isn't your ex-boyfriend, okay? So what will happen is, if you establish a connection and then you didn't do any activity, the server will just kills your connection because it knows you're not serious, right? So that's what that does. It does like if the connection, it has a preventive measure to prevent bad connections, like bad actors, harmful connection, things that is essentially is useless to the server. Okay, so that's what happens here. The timeout is very critical. You connect. If you don't do anything, any activity, I'm sorry, I think I'm gonna kill you. You can always reconnect if you want to. Feel free, but I need to serve other users, so I need to keep my number of connections essentially in use. Okay, so people can connect, right? So that's in a nutshell what you can do. Always there is another attack, right? I forgot what's name, but you can connect just one machine, right? Can establish a TCP connection and just keeps it alive. And what it does is it sends the request to connect, and then it sends 1 byte at a time. It sends very slowly. It sends the data. So it sends it slow enough so that the server still thinks, well, the server knows this. If the server tries to kill the connection, it will says, oh, I just received another data. Oh, this guy's just slow. I'm gonna wait, right? It just resets the timeout. So you can actually essentially write a script, JavaScript or Python, to establish a TCP connection, and then sends a GET command after a while, sends another byte of data, and then sends another byte of data. It's just like a few bytes of the TCP connection.